Oh, hello, it's February 21st. I'm Ezra Levant, and you're watching Battleground. Well, hi, everybody. What an amazing week it's been. What an incredible week for news. It is so jam-packed, I can't even believe it. Of course, we got news in the United States. We have the news of a fantastic debate. Maybe the best debate the Democratic Party has ever had. It was so brutal. Oh my God. And you know what I saw? It was record-setting viewership too, because people just couldn't believe it. We'll have some super fun clips for that. But I also want to talk about what's going on in Canada. The blockades, blocking railways and roadways and pipeline construction zones. It's unbelievable. And for the first time, these blockades aren't just attacking people in the oil patch in Alberta and British Columbia, but they really seem to be hurting Quebec and Atlantic Canada, which I think is very interesting because those are the parts of the country that overwhelmingly voted for the Liberals, or in the case of Quebec, the Bloc Québécois, who have an anti-pipeline policy. As you may know, I'll get to the American clips later. Oh, we've got some great clips. Watching Elizabeth Warren take on Mini Mike Bloomberg was such a pleasure. He's got $60 billion. He's one of the richest men in the world. He's spending $10 million a day. Like, he's on track to spend billions. And so maybe that will just drown everything out. But he had such a disastrous performance. Maybe it'll backfire on him. I mean, maybe the money will boomerang, will backfire on him. I don't know. I mean, there's a certain point in time where you buy every single ad, every single media out, and I don't know, can grassroots Democrats beat him? It'll be fascinating to see. I'll get to those clips later because they were so amazing. But I want to start by talking more about the blockades in Canada. It is bizarre to me that the anti-pipeline extremists, many of them foreign funded, are targeting their own natural allies. I first thought this was odd. I don't know if we have any B-roll of this, Justin, when they started going after the British Columbia legislature and the legislature reporters. As you know, British Columbia has a new Democrat government. They're hostile to the oil sands, hostile to pipelines. And it's actually a coalition government with the Green Party, so it's so wacky. Now, they have this super ugly shanty town, but then they blocked access to the building itself. They blocked the doors. As you can see, not an Aboriginal person amongst them. Yeah, I see a Chinese-Canadian lady there pounding on the drum. Those aren't Aboriginal folks. Those are white liberals. Maybe that guy's Aboriginal. I'd say 1 in 20. I've been to an anti-pipeline protest in Vancouver where there were 800 people, and I spent hours there. In 800 people in Vancouver, I saw maybe 4 Aboriginal people, and I saw 2 Asian Canadians. In fact, they were so rare. In Vancouver, to have 800 people and have no people of Asian descent is almost statistically impossible, because Vancouver has such a large Asian Canadian minority. And so, in fact, I remember going up to the 2 Asian folks that I saw, saying, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And in fact, it was so funny because I recall the one guy I went up to first, he said, "Well, I'm from Australia, mate. I'm just here to see what all the fuss is about." It's such a liberal, white, basic Starbucks pumpkin latte thing to do. And, but my point is, they were eating their own. Do we have John Horgan's front lawn? John Horgan, this NDP premier, who's against the Trans Mountain Pipeline, against oil pipelines, he's a radical environmentalist, he's in a coalition with the Greens. They went to his personal home and lay down, blocking his property, scaring the hell out of his... Do we have it as B-roll? Feel free to just put it right up there. Scaring the hell out of his wife. And yeah, look at this. This is his house. What are you doing in his house? His house is not a public facility. Oh, I remember these losers. They were hollering something really dopey. Freaked out the missus, because are these losers going to come into the house? She's alone in the home. I have no political sympathy for John Horgan, the Premier, and I have no personal connection to him whatsoever. I don't know anything about his wife, but I know that she is not a political target, and their personal home ought not to be a personal, like a bullseye on it for a bunch of freaks. And this genuinely irritated and maybe even scared the Premier, who rushed right over. And again, I disagree with probably every word out of his mouth. But it bugged me that his house was being targeted and his wife was being targeted. What the hell are you doing going after his wife? And this is not necessarily just a protecting, white knighting for a woman. If it was reversed, if it was a female Premier and the house husband was at home, what are you doing going after? What are you doing going after the family? Now, the fact that it was a woman in the house and a bunch of stupid guys outside, I think there is a physical power imbalance there. Super gross. So they were going after the Premier personally. Super duper gross going after his wife at home, where she was obviously scared enough to call him and he rushed over. That's got to bug a guy. You're blocking the entire legislature, including the handicapped entrance. Who does that? Who does that? It's one thing to park in a handicapped parking space. I don't do that, by the way. That's really pushy to do that. I'd call that gross. But to block a handicap entrance and exit on purpose, not, I need a place to park, I'm just running in for 30 seconds, but to block it is ultra gross. And I knew they had gone too far when they had physically harassed and blocked journalists, because that is the base of the leftist anti-pipeline pro-environmental movement, the media. And to harass and criticize the media, who was doing the quarterbacking of this? And like I say, Via Rail. Via Rail is not a big thing in Western Canada. It's just not. But people still ride it between Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal. Go ahead, good for them. They shut down all the Via Rail trains because the tracks were blocked. All of them. They laid off hundreds of workers. CN Rail, one of the major freight train companies in Canada, laid off hundreds of workers too and stopped shipping crucial things to Atlantic Canada. I think they're on the verge of running out of propane or something. Why are you doing things to harm your base where they voted Liberal and Bloc Québécois? This is very fascinating to me. The police stand by. The police have a variety of powers they can use to unblock a railway line. Trespass, mischief, endangering, there's probably some railway-specific laws. The police just stand by. And finally, a couple of Alberta boys just went to a train blockade. And what are you going to do? You're going to unblock the train. The police were useless. As they say in Alberta, this is a saying, as useless as teats on a bull. That's a phrase in Alberta. The RCMP were about as useful as teats on a bull. All hat and no cattle, another phrase. They're just standing there. So some Alberta boys said, let's go solve the problem. Here, let's take a look at that.
Yes. Cleaning up the mess. Hard working oil patch workers cleaning up the mess.
That's right.
Is this your wood?
No,
it's infringing on my country's train tracks. Excuse me, coming through. Coming through. Sorry.
Look at those good guys. Not fighting, not swearing, not shouting, just doing some physical labor. Got the work gloves on. Looked pretty chilly out there. I'm going to guess it was minus 10, minus 15. A little bit of physical labor, a little bit of exercise. Some media just filming it, cops standing by. They cleared the railway tracks. They didn't get into a fight. Actually, one lad got punched by a masked protester, but that's not a fight when you get sucker punched by the left. It's assault. But those lads were great. They cleared the tracks. You know, I mean, I suppose you could run to court and get a judicial order, get a court order, get an injunction. You could, but that's just a piece of paper. So you literally bring a piece of paper that says move, and what happens if the thugs don't move? And then maybe you get another court order ordering the police to enforce the first court order, and you hand it to the police, and they don't do anything because they work for Justin Trudeau, the RCMP. So what do? Do you go to the court to get another piece of paper to tell them to listen to the first two pieces of paper? No, you send some Alberta boys out with a big old truck and say, hey guys, can you take half an hour and clean up this problem? Because the entire government of our country cannot. From the Prime Minister on down to the leftist commissioner of the RCMP, to the public safety minister, to the Premier of Alberta and his red Tory justice minister, to the local police, nobody fixed the problem other than some normal guys. How great is that? Guys, but also there were some mums there. Let me play for you a clip of some of these great mums.
We're not worried about prosperity. We're worried about actually having a world that's livable.
You get to decide for them?
No, you know who gets to decide? The scientific community.
Then you should take your masks off so everybody can see who you are. Yeah.
Why are you here?
If you're not ashamed, take them off. Not ashamed, remove your mask. I'm not ashamed.
The reason why we mask up is because there's a lot of people on Twitter right now threatening a great deal of violence against us.
You know, those mums are great. I think they could. I think they could crush. Like if it came to fisticuffs, I think those mums. I don't think they're particularly like. I don't like. They're just normal mums. But I think they could take on that vegan, anemic loser in the mask. Don't you? And they're not like, they didn't look particularly like MMA fighters. Like there's some Ronda Rouseys out there that could really tune you out. But I think those are just regular mums who could dispatch that anemic vegan masked thug. Let me remind you that these are not pro-Aboriginal protests. They claim to be, but that's impersonation. That's fraud, that's false advertising. As you may know, 20 out of 20 Wet'suwet'en First Nations along the coastal GasLink pipeline, they support the pipeline. All 20 bands support the pipeline. None of them are against, and they're like municipalities. You're asking, what's an Indian band? And why are you using the word Indian? Isn't that racist? First of all, every Indian I know calls himself an Indian. In fact, one of my favorite chiefs, Clarence Louis, he almost always wears Indian brand clothing from the Indian brand motorcycle. He loves it. Every real Indian I know loves wearing Atlanta Braves, Cleveland Indians. Why wouldn't you? You name a sports team after something strong and noble. You don't name a sports team after something you dislike. That's a by the way, but the main point is, under Canadian law called the Indian Act, Indian is a legal term. It has a certain legal meaning, and an Indian band has a legal meaning, and an Indian chief has a certain legal meaning. It's like a town, really. So each Indian band, it's like a municipal council, and they have votes, and they have like aldermen, those would be the band councilors. So that's what it means. So all 20 of the bands along the route either had votes of their banned council members, or they actually had referendums, which is very democratic. 20 out of 20 bands want the pipeline. So who the hell are these impersonators, these actors, these defrauders, masked losers, white pumpkin spice sipping latte liberals in Vancouver? Who the hell are they to protest against a pipeline that 20 out of 20 Indian bands want? We got a clip, just a couple of guys from up there in the Wet'suwet'en First Nations. They want the work. They're ready to work. It's a $6 billion pipeline up in the north. Who's up there? Wet'suwet'en First Nation Indians. They're going to get the work. I'll get to some of the super chats in a minute. But here, let's play a clip. I'll get to the super chats in a minute. But play the clip of these actual First Nations members saying, we want the pipeline. Who the hell are y'all?
I'm just a regular guy. I want to work. Like this project is going to have 10,000 employees. Now, if we interrupt one little part of it, it's going to erupt the whole line, and that's a lot of 10,000 people is a lot of families and businesses that are going to be affected.
And so, people don't believe how crazy this can get. And so these organizers of this really slick, well-funded campaign, they know exactly what they're doing. So when they're going to tell the rest of Canada, oh my God, look at all the RCMP, all this violence of the RCMP, that's not happening.
It'll bring a lot of jobs for people down the road for our community that want to work. And there's a conflict between some certain people which don't even have an idea where our trap lines and who owns the territory in which area, thinking that they know it all, and they're stepping in saying they don't even know diddly squat about our territory, and then meanwhile they're putting on roadblocks and so forth, and that's uncalled for.
I love that guy at the end there. They don't know diddly squat about our territory. Hey, do you have that clip of when Cian went up there? That clip we played yesterday on the show? So there was a blockade, and it was way up in the woods, and there was no cell phone service up there, and there was a bunch of Antifa-type thugs up there. And so we sent Cian up there. We sent him up there with some pretty heavy-duty security because, yeah, it's just B-roll. Go ahead, put it up there. So it was extremely cold. It was like minus 30, minus 40. So we were up there, and it's beyond cell phone service. We didn't have a satellite phone. We'll get one next time. And pause it pause. Can you pause it there? Can you click pause? Look at that guy. That guy is so white, he's pink. We were able to identify this guy and some of the other protesters up there. They're not Indian. They're not from British Columbia. They're activists who came in from Ontario. Yeah, you can keep playing the rest of that B-roll, thanks. Now Cian, because his security detail said, yeah, no, we're not getting out of the vehicle, we're beyond the call for help. There's no way, there's no cell phone service, there's 20 of these guys. They were pretty thuggish. So we actually stayed in the vehicle. By we, I mean Cian. As that elder said, these guys don't know diddly squat about what the real First Nations up there are like. They don't know anything. They're a bunch of white guys coming. I got nothing against white guys. I'm pretty white myself, but don't pretend you're speaking for the First Nations. Just stop lying. So of course, all of our establishment has failed. All of our elites have failed. The RCMP have failed. The media tell lies about these protests and their nature. The courts have failed. Prosecutors have failed. The police have failed. But I showed you some good guys who did a good job. And I haven't seen Sheila's vid. Does it have more good guys? Not really. The United We Roll Streeters or the United We Roll with Sheila's is.
It's just the leader of the organization just talking about it. Like there's not
Got it. So I showed you the vids of some regular guys just clearing the junk away. It was almost like 1-800-GOT-JUNK, right? They're just picking up the junk, throwing it in the back of a big old truck. There was really not a lot fancy going on. And I want to say, and I emphasized before, there was no swearing, no shouting, no pushing, no fighting, just clearing junk away from a train track. That's important. That's not just, along the sides of highways. Sometimes you see like this highway cleanup sponsored by the local Rotary Club. You ever see those signs along the side of a highway? That's what this was like. It was like a public spirited cleanup, except for it wasn't just unsightly trash thrown on the side of a highway. It was dangerous. You want to throw that back up again as B-roll? Like, it was dangerous. Like on a railway, you could derail a train, which was the obvious purpose, to make it impassable. And who knows, besides loss of life, look at some of these things they're clearing away. Okay, that's just a tree stump or something, but look at some of the other stuff. Bricks and blocks, and there's a barrel, and who knows what's in that barrel. Is it full of sand or something? Now, some of it just wood. It probably wouldn't stop a train, but you never know if it gets under. Like, most of that could be probably pushed aside by the train, but you get something under the wheels of a train, that could derail it. These lads are doing important work that the cops, frankly, should have done. Do you call it a vigilante when someone cleans up the trash like that? Oh my God, they're a vigilante cleaning up the trash. Well, that's what some losers in the media called it, including my old friend Andrew Coyne. Vigilantism. Did a leading candidate for Conservative leader just endorse vigilantism as a response to railway barricades? Nah, mate. He endorsed some Alberta boys putting on work gloves and getting a little exercise clearing off the dirt. Now, the tweet in question was Peter MacKay's, and he deleted it. It was this one. Glad to see a couple of Albertans with a pickup truck can do more for our economy in an afternoon than Justin Trudeau could do in 4 years. Exactly. Imagine deleting that because some of the mean girls in downtown Toronto said, did you really mean to say that? The right answer is, yeah, mate, I did. Let's have a discussion about it. Imagine cowering in the face of that. Let me catch up on some super chats. Proud Boys Calgary, I thought cultural appropriation was a mortal sin. Yeah, exactly. And I think that every journalist in the country who puts in an ounce of effort would know that the actual Wet'suwet'en First Nations support this pipeline, but they are engaging in fake news. The CBC is the worst. I call it disinformation. The CBC pumps out dozens of stories a day on these blockades, and they always claim that they're in solidarity with the Wet'suwet'en Nation or chiefs, but as I showed you, that's not true. It's just disinformation from Trudeau's CBC state broadcaster. Oh, there's another super chat. Go ahead, put it on the screen. Bernard Hutchinson, 279. Why is the mainstream media against truthful news? Is truth bad? Wow, truth is the most powerful thing. And it can overcome almost anything. If Canadians knew that the First Nations up there support the pipeline, then they'd say, oh, well, we support the pipeline down here too. The only reason we were hesitant is because we thought it was infringing on Aboriginal folks up there. So if they're in favor of it and we're in favor of it, and everyone's a winner and we're going to make some money, and by the way, natural gas is a clean burning fossil fuel, and by the way, we sell it to Asia, and that will displace OPEC natural gas from Qatar and Iran and Russia. Those are the three biggest reserve countries for natural gas. Yeah, everyone would be in favor, and people would say, hang on, who are these protesters really? And they'd realize they're just foreign-funded environmental extremist groups. So that's why the truth is so powerful and must be attacked at all costs by the CBC state broadcaster. Can you grab some of those images we used yesterday about the train derailments? I don't know how often trains derail in Canada. I'm sorry, I don't know that information. I would imagine that it's sort of like vehicle accidents on a highway. You have some minor ones, and you really don't hear about the accidents unless they're major or spectacular. But look at this. So this is dated February 19th, so it's 2 days ago. This is February 14th, so it's a week ago. And I think we got one more. What's the date on this? I can't quite see it. The 19th. So we've got, what's that? Is that 3 different derailments, I think, in the last few days? Can you put the one back about the fireball there? Now you would think that a fireball, I think it was yeah, there we go. 19 cars involved in a pool of fire after CP train derailment near Guernsey, Saskatchewan. First of all, that sounds spectacular. Why is that not on the front page of everywhere? You've got these train blockades. You have 3 derailments, I think, if I'm counting right, in the last week, which is when the blockades come. One of them had an explosive pool of fire, sounds like, if I'm reading that right. And that's just being swept under the carpet. I mean, obviously not completely. I showed you some coverage of it, but you're not putting that on the front page. You've got train blockades. You've got the transport minister calling it dangerous. Throw up that clip of Mark Garneau, transport minister, a week ago saying extremely dangerous blockades. Take a look at this.
Safety here. There have been instances with the railroads where people have climbed on railway cars. That happened over the weekend. There have been instances where an unexpected blockade was put in an area where a train was in fact operating, and the railway company was not aware of that. And that can be extremely dangerous when a train is coming along. You know, the trains in Canada are long, they're big, they're heavy, they're large, they can't stop on a dime. And there have also been instances of tampering as well on the railways. And one that concerns me particularly is disabling the signalization, the signaling that occurs at a road crossing. So these are things that I would urge Canadians. We accept peaceful protests in this country and demonstrations that are peaceful and lawful, but it is concerning if people aren't respecting the fact that they can not only injure themselves, but they can injure other people.
Extremely dangerous to tamper with the signals across Canada. And then we have 3 train derailments, including one that had, what do they call it, a fireball. Now, I'm not a train inspector. I don't know how often trains derail. Maybe they derail every day. I would be surprised, but maybe. And that's just, hey, no problem. That's eco-terrorism. If that's what that is, that's eco-terrorism. But hey, just like Justin Trudeau doesn't like calling Islamic terrorism, he certainly wouldn't call eco-terrorism, eco-terrorism, would he? I don't think I've missed any other super chats. If so, please let me know. But I do want to talk about, I want to shift gears. And by the way, I want to tell you, do we have the new vids up that Sheila interviewed one of the heroes yesterday? Is that even available as an unpublished vid in our system? Because yesterday, after these lads cleared up this blockade, yesterday we said, hey, Sheila, can you track down these fellers? And she did. She's talked to a few of them, and I know she's done at least some vids. Maybe they're not quite ready to be released, and if they're not, then that's fine. Okay. I talked to Sheila on the telephone yesterday, and she said what's interesting to her is that these lads went to the blockade individually, not knowing the others would go. They just had this instinct, like beavers building a dam. They hear the rushing water, and that triggers something in the beaver to build a dam. These hard-working, busy beavers, they heard there's a blockade, so their instincts were triggered. Well, let's clear the blockade. What are you going to do? You're going to clear the blockade. Safety first. So they all went down there by chance together. Isn't that funny? They didn't know each other. And one guy had a truck, and they just, let's get her done. Let's get her done. And Peter MacKay was inspired by that for about 60 seconds until one of the mean girls, Andrew Coyne, said, "Do you mean to say you're for vigilante garbage clearing? What? Don't you have a permit? You need a license to clean. I think you need a license to clean the garbage off the train tracks." Oh my God, I better delete that tweet as a conservative leadership candidate. I can't have people thinking I support vigilante garbage clearing. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed for Peter MacKay. So we got a clip of Sheila? Is that what we got? And this is public already, so we're not... Okay, this just went live. Well, so I'm ready to watch the whole thing. I haven't seen the whole thing. If you want to run the whole thing, let's do that. Can we do that? Okay, so here's Sheila's report. Just went live. I haven't even seen it yet. We'll watch it together. Here, let's take a look.
Blockade buster. Some days I really love this job. Yesterday, west of Edmonton, Alberta, far left-wing anti-oil activists hauled hundreds of kilograms of garbage onto a CN rail track in an attempt to block the rail line as part of an ongoing series of nationwide blockades that are really an attempt to grind the economy of Canada to a screeching halt. The protesters want the Coastal GasLink pipeline project in northern British Columbia cancelled, despite the will of the democratically elected Wet'suwet'en Band Council, who want the pipeline to go forward. Without rail service, farmers are losing millions of dollars a day. The forestry industry could spiral into crisis. Via Rail laid off 1,000 employees yesterday due to the rail blockades. Commuters are stranded. Politicians are dithering, and police aren't doing anything. Now, yesterday's protest was the first of its kind to spill into Alberta, and it lasted about 8 hours before normal Alberta men showed up and took the thing down. And it is my mission in the coming days to track down every single one of the men involved and personally thank them and give them each a case of beer, a small token of gratitude from a grateful province. And so today, I'd like you to meet Chase Chomey. You can see him and his red Make Alberta Great Again hat in multiple videos of that blockade bust up. Chase, what inspired you to head down there? It seems like it was a pretty organic thing. I don't think the guys that went to the blockade knew each other.
Not really. I just went there after a doctor's appointment to see what was happening. And I met two guys at first. We kind of hung back. And then we eventually decided to go walk up, see what was happening. And then out of nowhere came Guy Simpson and a couple other guys from across the street. And we formed a group of about 6 to 9 people. There's also one lady, well, 2 ladies actually, that were there before us, but they were kind of behind us, I guess. But yeah, we just went there and we kind of just met each other. We had no idea who we were. There was lots of talk on the Alberta Wexit Facebook page, and everyone was saying, let's go there and do stuff, and there was really only 2 of us at first. And yeah.
So how did it all happen? You guys sort of waited. There was no real fighting until a little bit later, and we'll get to that, but you guys just sort of waited till the police gave them an injunction and then you started doing your thing?
Actually, before the injunction, Guy Simpson came out of nowhere, and he was chirping them. We were chirping them before, of course, but he was the one that actually started moving their stuff and getting it off the road, right? And that was before the injunction. And then one of the guys I was with, he was talking to one of the CN officers or whatever they are. He said the injunction was coming at 1. It came at maybe, 1:40 or something, but we were still moving stuff before the injunction happened, and as soon as the injunction happened, they all kind of linked up, and they took those papers, and then eventually we just ripped the entire thing down and put it in the back of the trailer that he borrowed from one of the companies up the road.
Now, how long did it take to haul away all their sacred garbage?
I'd say maybe to put everything in the back, it probably took about 25 minutes. There was 2 trailer fulls, I believe. Me and myself and one of the other guys, we left right after Guy Simpson and the other guys took off with the first trailer to go dump it. Because my phone was dying and I'm in the middle of nowhere, so. But pretty much, I believe they came back and they just got rid of the rest, but all the protesters, I'm pretty sure, were all gone by then, because they were scattering once we were done with the first load.
Yeah, why would they stick around to clean up their own mess? Now, there was at one point, I mean, the mainstream media has painted this as a peaceful protest, but there was at one point that it was not peaceful, but it wasn't you guys being violent, it was the other side. You were in, I think, the trailer when something happened.
Yeah, one of them hopped up, well, they hopped up on the trailer a couple times. You know, one time one of the older ladies that was on their side hopped up to grab her, I don't know what it was, a piece of wood. And after that, one of the guys jumped up to take one of the barrels down, and it landed on my foot. Surprised I wasn't wearing steel toes, so I'm surprised my foot didn't break because it was heavy. But after that, another guy hopped up on, and he was attempting to take down one of the signs that we put up on there. And one of the guys that was with us was on the side of the trailer, and whoever the masked guy was, he took the sign, tried to throw it off, but went right into the guy's neck like that. And the guy we were with, I'm not going to name names, but he went to go see one of the police officers, said, "Go to the officer right now. You just got hit in the neck by a frickin' wooden sign." Because he got knocked pretty hard by it, and no cops did anything.
Isn't that fascinating? Now, you said that, I mean, I guess these protesters and Antifa are pretty interchangeable, but they were taking your pictures and trying to get intel on you guys.
Yeah, there was one guy in particular in all camo, and he was the event organizer. I saw on CTV or Global last night, it said event organizer underneath his name. Some people were telling me he was a lawyer.
Oh, sure.
He was baiting myself and the others to try to hit him. Yeah. And after that, one of the first people we started off with, he was actually native himself. He was talking with him, and this guy wanted his phone number, you know, and
not for a date.
Yeah, not for a date. And I told him don't give any of your info, and that's what we did. Besides Guy.
Now, tell me a little bit about yourself, because you had time to be at that protest yesterday because of the bad economy here in Alberta.
Yep, I Class 1 truck driver. Completed the new MELT program a while ago, and due to, I don't know if it was the previous government or the current government just not doing anything, no companies can pick up people with little experience due to insurance, besides the mega carriers like Bison, and I'm not even old enough to be with Bison, so yeah.
So if you're watching at home and you want to hire a guy with a good work ethic, safe driving history, yeah, then Chase might be the guy for you. And if you want to hire him, just drop me a line and I'll put you in contact with Chase. Now, Chase, I met you here in Nisku because I want to bring good tidings and a message of thanks from our entire Rebel team. And I'm going to appoint myself a spokesperson of all the farmers out there who are trying to get their grain moved on the rail lines, and just normal people who believe in the rule of law. I'm going to give you my microphone for a second because I have a gift for you. Chase, you didn't tell me what kind of beer you like, so you're drinking my brand. This case of beer, I mean, it's a 15-pack of beer, not sponsored by Pilsner, but I'm sure each one of those beers in there represents the gratitude of thousands of people all across the country. And here's hoping that other Canadians are inspired by the way you guys dealt with a problem and handled yourself in the face of, you know, a lot of scrutiny and abuse, frankly, while you were down there. So thanks very much, Chase.
Yep, no problem.
Friends and Rebel supporters, if you know any of the men who helped Chase teach some far left-wing protesters a lesson about what life is really like outside of the Edmonton bubble, please message me so that I can let them know just how thankful we all are. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid.
Sheila is the absolute best. And that feller there, I think his name was Chase, if I got that right. What a good egg. I like his style. Took the beer, perfect. Pilsner, excellent. I can't remember if they still have the little stubby, I remember as a kid, that the pill was in the little stubby brown bottles. Classic, absolute great Albertan. I like how he didn't take the bait of the provocateurs. Very interesting that in fact it was the provocateurs and protesters, the masked thugs, that did the hitting. I wonder if Andrew Coyne will tweet his clucking against them, or if that's only for the good guys. I'm very, very pleased to see those guys. And let me reiterate what I said on Twitter the other day. First of all, I do want to send a case of beer. I don't think that was quite 24 cans. I think there was like a dozen or 15 cans in there. Maybe they're bottles, I don't know. Obviously, we want to get beer to these guys, obviously. But that's just for fun, right? Beer and a handshake, that's just the fun. But if other good guys and gals clear blockades, as you can see in my tweet here, I say free lawyer. Any non-violent Canadian who does what Trudeau's cowardly police won't do and dismantles these illegal blockades on roads and railways will receive a free lawyer paid for by Rebel News if police arrest you for taking out the trash. And it looks like that's got a few thousand clicks. Can you scroll down there just a tiny bit? Yeah, it looks like that that's had, people have been watching that. I'll have to check. It looks like a lot of people have seen that. It's important, the word nonviolent. I don't want people going down and beating the living daylights out of these protesters. Hey, can you call up that UK Extinction Rebellion subway vid? Canadians like to think of ourselves as polite, and I like the fact that Albertans in particular like that lad. Say, all right, let's get to work. Let's do it. Let's do her. Let's get her done. That's great. But this tactic, it's not really a Canadian tactic, blocking trains. Let me just set up this next clip, and we'll wrap up this segment. We'll get to the American debates, but I think this is important what we're showing. I was really glad. I just watched that Sheila video there with you for the first time. We just published that. So Greta Thunberg, Greta Inc., Extinction Rebellion, David Suzuki Foundation, Greenpeace, Tides Foundation, the whole globalist network of radical environmental groups that only attack oil and gas companies in the West. They never attack Vladimir Putin's Russia or OPEC dictatorships. You'll never see Greenpeace criticizing Saudi Arabia, Iran, Nigeria, Venezuela, countries like that. You just never will, which sort of tells you about where the money's coming from. So in the United Kingdom, they take trains a lot more than we do in North America. And I must say, I hate trains in Canada because there's so many things about them. But in the UK, they make a lot of sense to me. I love the tube in London, and I take the train when I go north. I think it's affordable, fast, convenient, and it just doesn't feel awful like it does in Canada. But more to the point, in the City of London, it's absolutely essential to get around. And, like New York's subway, where you have wealthy people and poor people both on the subway just because it's so efficient, so fast and affordable. UK in London, it's the same thing. People take the tube. You could be a really fancy person taking the subway, or you could be just a very working class person. You're on the same train because it's the best way to get around. So Extinction Rebellion, that's Greta's street thugs. They went to some train station, I'm sorry, I've forgotten the name of the exact station, but it looks to me like a pretty working class train station. It's not the fancy bankers in the city, you know, stock exchange, whatever. These are the working class folks, guys going to grind at their job, working class, and a bunch of fancy pants, Extinction Rebellion street thugs, but they're not even thugs, right? They're like vegan. They stopped the trains to film what I think was supposed to be some viral ad. And after the working class folks who were being made late for work, and if you're made late for work, maybe your boss is cool with it, or maybe you'll get fired. Or maybe you're not late for work, maybe you're late for a doctor's appointment, you missed the appointment. Or maybe you're late to pick up your kid, or to get your kid some, who knows, there's 1,000 people on a train, there's 1,000 reasons they have to be on time. And these Extinction Rebellion thugs, I'm using the word thug, but that implies that they're tough. They're sort of the opposite of tough. Well, let me just show you what actual vigilantism is like. Vigilantes don't peacefully and quietly clear trash off a track. That's how they do it Alberta style. Let me show you, and we got a fair bit of the clip, eh? Because this is just unbelievable. Look at what happened. It's about 90 seconds. Take a look at this from the UK.
Protest now, you f***ing do it on the right fucking... No one touch you! They're gonna arrest everyone!
You know, I'm not for violence, but putting that detail aside, there's something inspiring about people of all races and all classes and all backgrounds joining together in a moment of unity of purpose. I don't like the fact that that Extinction Rebellion guy had the living daylights kicked out of him. But the unity of purpose in that crowd, the absolute disgust and disdain that they were going to be held hostage. Oh, and we bleeped out the swears, but if you like swears, you would like the United Kingdom. They say swears that we don't even think of over here in the new country. They use swears that would make your hair stand up like a porcupine. They use swears that would make your eyes freeze in their sockets. You'll have to dig up the original clip if you want to hear all those bad words, but boy, they know how to cuss. And put the boots to some vegans. I absolutely oppose kicking the living daylights out of Extinction Rebellion ad agency reps. Primpel 08, $5 says socialists have been actively using environmentalism to undermine the West since at least the 70s. USSR, Russia, China, OPEC all get a pass. Yeah, I think the first Earth Day was, I mean, correct me on this if I'm wrong, the first Earth Day was on Lenin's birthday. Am I right? April 22, if I'm going from memory? Earth Day, I'm just checking this because I think I don't want to mislead you. April 22, that's right. And let me just double check, Lenin's birthday. I'm just checking because I don't want to mislead you. April 20, yeah, there we go, I was right. So Earth Day was specifically chosen for Lenin's birthday because it was watermelon-y, green on the outside, red on the inside. I've had a lot of fun talking about the blockades, and it's 12:50 already. I want to just grab those super chats that I missed. I read the one from Primpal 08. Thank you very much. And there's two others, you say? You got one on the screen. Bernard Hutchinson, what happens in Alberta if Trudeau cancels TEC? Okay, sorry, I didn't mean that before. TEC is the Tech Frontier Mine. It's a huge project, $20 billion if memory serves, met all environmental approvals, approved. Aboriginal bands love it, but the Liberal Party obviously wants to kill it. You're asking what happens if they do kill it. I hate to imagine, because then I think those good old boys who are clearing up the trash with a friendly smile, I'm afraid that some people who lose their jobs, lose their homes, lose their families, because of forced unemployment from Ottawa, I'm afraid not all of them will be so happy and amiable. I fear what will happen if thousands of families are thrown into poverty on purpose by a political decision. Listen, life happens, things happen. The Atlantic coast, the cod were overfished, they were gone. What are you going to do? You can't fish if there's no fish. Who do you blame? All right, you can blame, but the fish are gone. The oil sands are not gone. The oil's not gone. The oil's there. Everything, all the rules were followed. Imagine someone saying, sorry, you cannot mine for oil. It would be like saying, oh, there's so many fish. Newfoundland, it's amazing. The fish is amazing, but we're ordering you not to fish. What would the people say? I don't know. Is there another super chat, or did I hit them all? Proud Boys Calgary, $5. If the Alberta way can be summed up with one quote from Larry the Cable Guy, get her done! Very proud of these mad lads. I love this province. Yeah, well, we're, Sheila is personally delivering beer of the Pilsner variety to every hero we can find. And I know she's got another video coming up in the same vein. All right, it's 12:52. We don't have a lot of time to switch gears, but there was that amazing Democratic Party debate. And normally I don't recommend it, but one of the richest men in the world, named Michael Bloomberg, who is worth, let's see, there's 11 inches in a foot, right? So if you're 66 inches, sorry, there's 12 inches in a foot. I can't believe I just said 11. I'm sorry. Duh, I know that. So there's 12 inches in a foot. So there's 66 inches in a guy who's 5'6". I actually think he's worth exactly $1 billion an inch. Am I right on that? So he's a bit of a shorty, and that's fine. You know, I'm not exactly a towering Hulk. I think I'm 5'9". Once a nurse measured me and said I was 5'10", and like for days I was bragging. But I think Mini Mike is 5'6", but he's $1 billion an inch, which is about $999,999,000 more per inch than me. Donald Trump makes so much fun. Can we start with the Trump little Bloomberg just for fun, and then we'll get into the debates? Here we go.
Now, if I were from Texas, I might say Donald Trump is scared as a cat at the dog pound. But since I'm from New York, I put it this way. We're scaring the living hell out of him. And we're just starting right now.
I've watched that 3 times. I didn't know that was a foot coming down. That's very funny. Obviously, a funny meme video. Donald Trump himself tweeted that, which makes me laugh so hard when he retweets things like that. Hey, I see a super chat from Vince at Access Geo. Use the Alberta example and prepare a step-by-step process to peacefully remove the blockades by Canadians. Vince, it's like you're a mind reader. I will have news on this front probably later today, for sure by Monday, but thank you for the suggestion. Anyways, Bloomberg thinks that he's got Donald Trump as scared as a cat at a dog pound. I don't know if that's a Texas saying, but it could be. I mean, 60 billion, and like I say, Bloomberg's spending, what, 10 million a day or something like that? A shocking amount of money. I was in Washington the other day at a restaurant, And every single ad, on, like not every single ad, but every ad break on TV, there's a TV over the bar, was for Bloomberg. Like they're saturating everything, and he's buying. He's just dropping $5 million here, $5 million there to buy endorsements. I mean, if someone walked in this door right now with $5 million real dollars and said, "Will you take this and endorse Mike Bloomberg?" I'd like to think I'd say no, but really, to change my family's life for 2 generations, it would be bloody tough to say no. That's what Michael Bloomberg's doing. He's going around America buying endorsements for up to $5 million a pop. Stacey Abrams of Georgia, $5 million was enough to get her to endorse him, even though he said extremely anti-black things. But you go to an actual person and say, "Here's $5 million real dollars, will you endorse me?" It would take a very strong-willed person to say no. I mean, like, we all like to think we would say no on principle, but like Stacey Abrams, like, what does she care? She's like, does it really matter who she endorses? $5 million would change her life forever, change her family's life forever. I don't blame her. It's just super gross. And imagine 60 billion more. Bloomberg's what, 78? This is his last chance. He's repeatedly said he wants to die with all his money gone. He's got this line, he says, "I want to die and the check to the undertaker should bounce," like he's given it all away. Well, he'd better speed up his pace of spending then if that's what he wants to do. So let me show you what was amazing. Bloomberg, I've met a few billionaires in my life. I don't know any well, but it's amazing to see them because they're surrounded by flatterers, really, who cater to their every whim because, first of all, why not? They can get their every whim catered to. It's just money. But also, people want to ingratiate. So the thing about Mike Bloomberg, he's worth, what, $1 billion an inch, so that's 66 billion. For 10, 20, 30 years, he has owned, I guess he was mayor of New York and had to listen to critics, but he hasn't been mayor in a while. The only people he ever comes into contact with are his own staff, who do his wish is their command, or people who want to somehow get on the grift, right? Like Stacey Abrams. So I don't think he's ever been spoken back to, ever been contradicted in years. And so he's not used to it. So I think he thought it would be easier than it was. He just went on the debate. Let me show you what I thought was just a killer moment. Let's start with the groping billionaire comment by Elizabeth Warren, who is sinking like a stone because of Bloomberg. But look at this.
For another 4 years, and we can't stand that.
So I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Democrats are not going to win if we have a nominee who has a history of hiding his tax returns, of harassing women, and of supporting racist policies like redlining and stop and frisk. Look, I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is, but understand this. Democrats take a huge risk if we just...
Fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. I did not expect to hear those words from Elizabeth Warren. But that is Michael Bloomberg. And you know, it's not just that. You know, when he would, I mean, you're a billionaire, single straight male billionaire in Manhattan. You can indulge, I mean, you don't have to, you can indulge any itch. And he had a particular approach to women, including those who worked for him. And occasionally, I suppose they went along with it, Harvey Weinstein style, but occasionally they sued. And listen to this about his non-disclosure agreements.
For sexual harassment and for gender discrimination in the workplace. So, Mr. Mayor, are you willing to release all of those women from those non-disclosure agreements so we can hear their side of the story?
We have a very few non-disclosure agreements.
How many is
Let me
that?
finish.
How many is that?
None of them accused me of doing anything other than maybe they didn't like the joke I told. And let me put, there's agreements between two parties that wanted to keep it quiet, and that's up to them. They signed those agreements, and we'll live with it.
So wait, when you say it is up to, I just want to be clear. Some is how many? And when you say they signed them and they wanted them, if they wish now to speak out and tell their side of the story about what it is they allege, that's now okay with you? You're releasing them on television tonight?
Senator? No.
Is that
right? Oh, she ain't going to be president, but boy, that left a mark. I see there's another super chat. Let me refer to it. Gabe Duguay, let's get together and blockade government buildings protesting the carbon tax so we can show Trudeau's reaction to real protesters. Yeah, I don't think he would be as gentle if they were blocking one of his snowboarding or surfing getaways. I enjoyed watching Elizabeth Warren land a few punches. Now, Bloomberg himself had a few zingers. He took on Bernie Sanders, and I thought this was effective. Two septuagenarian Jewish guys from New York, or not, from New England, I guess, duking it out. It was great. Take a look at this.
Creating a government that works for all, not just socialism.
What a wonderful country we have. The best-known socialist in the country happens to be a millionaire with 3 houses. What did I miss here?
Well, you'll miss that I work in Washington, House 1.
That's the first problem.
Live in Burlington, House 2.
That's good.
And like thousands of other Vermonters, I do have a summer camp. Forgive me for that. Where is your home? Which tax haven do you have your home?
New York City, thank you very much, and I pay all my taxes.
I love the aesthetic. I love the accents. What are you saying? That I have 3 houses? I mean, it really, similarities with Larry Sanders. Larry David, sorry, I'm thinking Larry Sanders, Jerry. Larry David of, not Arrested Development, but Curb Your Enthusiasm. They are identical men, are they not? Now, I think Bloomberg got massacred, but how many people watched the debates? I think it was actually 34 million. I saw a press release. Oh my God, it's 102. Let me wrap up. 30 million or so, 34 million. Huge. But Michael Bloomberg, like I said, $1 billion an inch. So he's putting together his own edited version of that debate. Let me show you a clip.
I'm the only one.
Here he is talking about, like, he stitched together some reaction shots that weren't to this. Look at this video that he's pumping out like crazy on Twitter.
I'm the only one here that I think that's ever started a business. Is that fair? Okay. I'm the only one here that I think...
That's a great video. I mean, obviously, taking those out of context. But the thing is, when you got 66 billion, you can show people whatever you want. You can revise history. I don't know if Mike Bloomberg's going to win the Democratic primary, but I know he's made it a lot more interesting. My friends, it's 1:03 p.m. We've gone past our appointed hour. I'll have another show for you tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can become a subscriber to our paywall. That's only $8 a month. You get my daily show. You get Sheila Gunn Reid's video show. You get David Menzies' show. And you help keep us strong here at Rebel News. So go to premium.rebelnews.com, premium.rebelnews.com. Until then, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, goodbye. And keep fighting for freedom.